James here. This is the fourth tutorial in a series of Java tutorials. This tutorial goes over the basics of variables and how to use them. We will specifically be using local variables in the tutorial, but declaring class variables and parameter variables we will go over in a later tutorial. The first thing that you have to know about Java about variables is that they all have a type. The type of variable determines what you can place in the variable, from a number to a sequence of words or a person. Types in Java fall under two categories: primitive types and object types. So first, to get us kicked off, let's show you how to actually declare a variable. So first we type in the type, and then followed by the name of the variable, and then we can in the statement right there, or we can go ahead and assign it to a value. So let's go ahead and assign it to the value 21. So basically we create a new integer variable and called it age and set it equal to 21. So basically, let's go ahead and see how to use this. So if we go ahead and do system.out.println, and we go ahead and print out age, we can see that it prints out 21. And then basically we can also reassign the variable to another value. So basically, age now equals 18. And we go back and type this out, that print line, and we go ahead and type out age is now, and we go ahead and add on to the end of that 21. Go put a space there, go ahead and run it, and we can now see that age is now 21. We reassign the value of age to 18. Oops, I meant to say 18 there. So basically that's how you use a variable in a nutshell. So let's talk about the primitive types first. For primitive types, they are built in language and have keywords associated with them. You cannot create a new primitive type in Java, but you can use them to compose a new object type variable in classes, which we'll cover later in the series. There are 8 types, or 9 depending on if you want to count string as a primitive, and they are byte, short, integer, long, float, double, char, and Boolean. So basically, the first type I mentioned is a byte, and basically it'll be typically we use an array to store some sort of raw data like images or encrypted data. We will cover arrays later, but the numerical range of a byte is -128 -128 to 127. So basically, to use byte, you just type in byte b equals 120. And now if you go ahead and print that out, system.out.println, and make sure to capitalize system. B, you can see that it will print out 120. So basically, bytes will be used in some sort of image or raw data. The second type is a short. A short is a bigger version of a byte number. It's actually a 2-byte number or a 16-bit number. You would typically use a short in a case where you want to save memory, like a mobile game. So let's say you're going to have a value such as like age that you don't need it to be take up as much space as an integer, so you just use a short. So that's basically the use of a short. So just a quick on it, short s equals 200 or 2000. So basically, now if we go ahead and print this out, if I can type today, s, and go ahead and run it, you can see that that is 2000. The third type is the integer data type. So I already showed you that one. So basically, integers, you use them to store any sort of whole number, and basically we'll use them a lot to store like how much money someone has or something like that. And the fourth type is a long. So basically, a long is just a longer version of an integer. We'll typically use long, such as in frame counters in games, but basically you declare it just like any other number. So L equals 1 blah 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 2, a really long number. And whenever you use long constants, you always affix it with a L at the end. So it's saying that, oh, this is a long constant. So basically, if we go ahead and run this, go ahead and print out this long, and then L, and go ahead and print it out. You can see that it prints out 1 trillion, if I can count zeros today. Whatever comes after a trillion, actually. but basically that's a really long number. So that are all basically, those are all the integer type variables. So the fifth type, so let's say that we want to actually store a decimal number. That's when we get into our fifth and sixth types, float and double. So basically a double is a double precision number. So double the amount of precision that a float has. So I'll go ahead and show you how to use a double. So basically double d equals 20.0. So basically what this is a double. So remember in the last tutorial when I was going over integer division versus decimal division, this is where you would use that double. So if you say like double d divided by 2, we will get 10. So basically, but if we do something like 20 divided by 3, that's not a whole number. So it'll end up being 6.666, blah, blah, blah. So 6 2/3. So basically, that's what doubles we use for. And float is just a smaller version of a double. And if you see right here, it'll say that it'll start barking at us, hey, you're trying to put a double into a float. Well, to fix that problem, all you do is you just add an f at the end. So saying this is a float constant. So basically, if we go ahead and run this in now, if we do d, and we go ahead and change the name of this to a more appropriate name, so f, and divided by 3, you can see that we'll get the same value, just with less significant digits. And basically, all a double is just more precise than a float. Now, know about these is you don't use them for numbers or for currency. To actually do something with currency, I would recommend either using a big decimal in the Java math, or let me see, Java math, that big decimal, or an integer representing the smallest denomination in that currency. So basically cents in the US currency. So the thing about floats and doubles is that they're not exactly precise. So if you're doing currency calculations where you're doing like 20f times 3.4452f, that won't be exactly that number. That's why you can't use them in currency. It's just the way that computers work and how they store float and decimal or double numbers. You have to use something that is easily divisible by computers that will always result in a whole number, or you use something that was specifically designed for that task, such as big decimals. So let's go on to the seventh type of variable, which is char. A char stores a single Unicode character. So let's go ahead and see how to do that. Char c equals, and whenever we want to use the char, or char constant, we put it in single quotes. And it can store something such as a capital A, or a capital B, or a capital, or a, not capital pound, a pound sign. And basically we can use that to store a sequence of characters in like a string or something like that. But if we're actually going to store a sequence of characters in Java, we would simply use the string type, which I'll cover in the next tutorial. So basically, chars are just sort of represent one character in a sequence. We can use them in other things, such as looking up a single character in a string. Say, basically, you want to find out the first index of like C and the phrase cat or clarinet or something like that, or the last index of that character too. But basically, we use chars pretty sparingly in Java, but in other languages such as C, we'll use them more often to store a sequence of characters. And so basically, if we want to print this out, so system.out.println C, it'll print on a single pound to the screen. So basically, as you can see, single pound. And now the next thing, the final variable type, primitive type that I'll go over is Boolean. So to declare a Boolean, you simply type in Boolean B. And the thing about Booleans, they only have two values, true or false. And you may think that's not that useful, but we will be using these a crap ton later when we do conditionals. So basically, if we do, like, if something is true, then do this, or if something is not true, then do this. So basically, we'll be using them a lot more when we do conditional if statements, for loops, while loops, stuff like that. So we'll go into more depth in those tutorials. But basically, if you want to just print it back to the screen, we just do system.out.println, and we just do B. And you can see that it'll print out false, or if we set it to true, it'll print out true. And basically, that's all the primitive types that there are in Java, unless you want to count string. But we'll go over string the next tutorial, which will go over object types. So, not to drag on any longer, I'll go into object type variables in the next video. So, thanks for watching.